Oh, okay. All right, and I'm gonna turn off Skype so that nobody interrupts us.
All right. And then also, questionnaire who actually owns the seat. You're happy?
Oh,
Okay.
excited.
It's actually moved some things around to see credit. So we're actually looking good watching now. So that's great. And then also Thursday, people ask, why are we actually putting this on the PowerApps now? Because I have that. That makes it easy, right? So
Yes.
and then also, there's a lot of things we're actually targeting the same business analysts, but targeting the same applications, the same technologies. And then this Thursday, hey, Jorge, thank you very much. Hopefully you guys can hear us. And to be honest, I want to explain to you as well. I'm actually going to show you how you actually integrate Power BI and PowerApps into a platform. So I'll actually walk through that. Again, these products are coming together, the integration. Next week, we're going to show you how to use Power Query. Again, products are coming together and it makes sense. No entiende el sonido. Hopefully you guys can hear us.
Oh, Jorge, if you want me to speak Spanish, you're in big trouble. I can speak French. Would that help? I don't know, but I can't do the Spanish thing. I will say that it's pire que horrible. It's worse than that. Oh, okay. So can you hear me? Because I'm about to tell you something important. I want to tell you face to face. Let me stop sharing for a second. Okay, so here I am looking at you. I'm going to find the camera. My computer. Oh, can you hear me now? They say yes. I'm speaking at the chat to see.
No.
Please don't. They can't hear anything. Oh, they can hear now. It must have just kicked in. Okay. It must have just, great. So let me tell you something. I have a surprise for you today. I'm going to share 5 tips in this presentation. And these 5 tips are not explicitly called out in the presentation, but they will be called out with my voice. If you can catch all 5 tips, and then you're willing to email me your address and your size, I will send you both a PowerApps and a Flow t-shirt. So the key is to catch all 5 tips, all right? So that's the between you and me. Now, I also want to say that it's been a while since I've talked about Excel. Actually, I've never talked about it. And I got an email from someone that said, why don't you talk about Excel? So today I'm going to talk about Excel so that everybody can kind of hear what's going on. Excel is an awesome product for getting to know PowerApps because it makes it easy. You just put your little data source together and you try it out and you get comfortable with PowerApps. You can also do a lot of interesting things with Excel, and that's why we don't want to, miss out on talking about it. For instance, this is Claxton. I'm going to show you in a minute, Claxton, who is a little dog that works for a business, and he goes and visits hospitals. And all of the customers for that particular business that handles supporting hospital customers is all worked out of Excel. So Excel is a very powerful tool, so we definitely want to give it its due time. Let me know after this is over if you want more Excel, and I'll make sure it keeps coming at you, okay? So right now, I'm going to do a little screen share. And you should see Claxton. Let me know when you see Claxton. Archana, is everybody seeing Claxton, this cute little dog that goes to hospitals and encourages people? Great. Okay, so let's get started. As you know, every time I do these, I have to spend a little bit of time talking about what PowerPoint is, because a lot of people still don't know. As time goes on, you'll get to know, and you do this less. But PowerApps is a software as a service, and its whole goal is to create business applications that work across platforms. And what I mean by across platforms is, the great news is it works instantly when I make a Power App. It works in iOS, it works in Android, it works in Windows Phone, as well as on my desktop and the top browsers, and I can even throw it on the wall on a 60-inch Surface Hub. So one application works everywhere, and that's the beauty of PowerApps. But as we're building these apps, we actually use a 3-step process. This is one is the connecting to data. And this is what we talk about quite a bit, the connecting to data. This is that first step. And today we're talking about data in Excel. And specifically, I'll be using data in OneDrive for Business for Excel. But you'll be able to connect your Excel sheets as well from Dropbox as well, or other cloud storage locations. I'm just going to use OneDrive for Business because that's like what I have available. Secondly, after you connect to your data, you build your apps, you build screens, you build forms, you build workflows, and you do all of that without having to write code. So it's awesome that you can put together an app in a 2-day hackathon that your business will love. Today, we're actually going to build an app from beginning to end in less than an hour. So it is possible to fast track it. Thirdly, I want to talk about the fact that you don't have to wait for some store to tell you that your app is now available. When you decide to publish your apps to your business that you've made, you press a button or two, and off that app goes to all of your employees' phones. I do want to point out, though, when you're publishing apps within your Active Directory. You're not publishing apps outside of your organization. And that's something we want to remember. But it's a very enabling tool because you can increase the efficiency, the productivity, and the knowledge management initiatives within your organization. So very powerful. This is based on what we call the business application platform model, which enables us to innovate faster. It has 3 parts to it: a measure, an act, and an automate. Now, the tools that are associated with these are Power BI for the measure. When I think about measure, I think of analytics, I think of trends, I think of forecasting even. Now, ACT, on the other hand, is what PowerApps is all about. Where are those CRUD operations? Create, read, update, delete. You do all that with PowerApps, and you do that with a device that's available to you at the time that you need that data or that interaction with that data. And then finally, you don't waste time doing things that computers can do. You leverage Microsoft Flow to automate the processes and the transactions that don't actually need humans, because we can predict them and then we configure them, and then Flow can handle that for us. Now, all of this is happening on a power user layer. So the people who are using PowerApps, Power BI, and Flow are all, for the most part, not required to know anything about code. Now, coders use them as well, but it's a power user tool. You can easily put together an app without having to manage code or opening Visual Studio. They just use formulas like they do in Excel. Now, we don't want to forget our developers because they always help us to extend our applications. So we have what's called the Pro Dev layer. And the Pro Dev layer enables us to extend those applications beyond what those power users can do. For instance, if you have a line of business application, you can create a custom API and a connector that connects to that line of business application. And now you hand your power user a Swagger file or an upload file. They have all that additional functionality available to them as they continue to build that application. This gives us the strength of leveraging Azure and SQL Server and Azure Functions and BizTalk and Internet as a Service and all those other new exciting services available in the modern workforce. So we're happy to have the Pro Dev layer attached to our power user layer. All of these, of course, as I say again, based on are connecting to data. Data is a very important denominator here. And so we actually have developed a special data model called the Common Data Service, which can be used to create apps that cross all of our billions of users in Office 365, Azure, and in Dynamics 365. So a very powerful data schema can be built using the Common Data Service. And then we have connectors and gateways, so you don't have to feel like you need to be 100% in the cloud. You can be on-prem. We have gateways that will help you connect to that. We have other software as a service connectors, and I'll even give you a peek at some of our connectors later on today. But wow, the power to be able to connect the data from anywhere is phenomenal. Now, today is all about Excel. And somebody might ask me, why would I want to create a Power App for Excel? And my answer would be to enhance the experience of your consumers, right? When I'm looking at an Excel spreadsheet, I'm looking at that bottom piece that you see on the screen there. I'm looking at a table, right? And that's a nice experience. I mean, we get a lot out of it, but wouldn't it be interesting if we could make an application that enhances our users' experience by using an app model? And so I'm going to show you today, we're going to build an app together that actually enables you to keep a track of all of the purchase orders that are collected by your team. Imagine you have a team, maybe there's 10 people on your team, and they're putting in purchase order numbers. And you just want to keep a spreadsheet of all the purchase numbers that are collected. But you want to encourage your users to engage by giving them something easy, and you want to enhance their experience so it's a little bit more fun to do, okay? So let's get into this. I'm going to talk about connecting manually first, but then I'm going to show you how I'm going to connect. And I'm actually going to show you how I built my spreadsheet. We're going to do it from beginning to end. Interrupt me at any time. If I run out of time, we'll get that back together and do this again. So when we connect to data in Excel, we have to first pick a cloud storage location. In my case, I've picked OneDrive for Business, but you could pick Dropbox or something else, whatever cloud storage location you have, and you prepare your Excel file and upload it there. Then when you make the connection, you're going to connect to that storage location first, which will give you visibility to the folders there, which when you dive into those, the files, and then when you click on those Excel workbooks, you will get a list of all the tables. So let me just tab out of this into my desktop for a minute. And I'm going to open up Excel. And I actually have a little Excel spreadsheet already worked out just to save us a little bit of time, but I will explain how I built it. All right, here's a little spreadsheet.
That is a little.
Listen, you can't get much littler than this. Yeah. And this little Excel spreadsheet, I have a little blurb, but it's back. It's back. So it has 5 columns. It has the date of the purchase order number, the category, the amount, and the notes. Now, what I've also added in here is a list of categories that I want them to be able to choose from. And later on, I might use these codes when I'm ready to expense them, even though we're not going to use these in the app. I did want to show you that you can put in some relationships in your workbook. Now, what's important when you create these, though, is that you remember to highlight them and format them as a table, because PowerApps is recognizing the Excel data by the table name. And this kind of makes sense, right? Because we all know that Excel, right, you can put data anywhere. So it goes like, I don't know how many thousands of rows to the right and how many millions of rows to the bottom. But no matter what, it would be hard for anyone to guess what part of that worksheet you need. So by naming your table ranges, you get an easy way to identify which data you want to connect to. So if you notice, I've done that, and up here at the top it says table 3. I can actually rename this something that is more logical to me so that I can find it better in PowerApps. And so tip number 1 is to format your tables, your data ranges as a table. That is tip number 1. It is one of the most important tips because you find your data from the table name. Tip number 2, which I snuck in there, is to make sure you can think about when it'd be good for you to rename your tables. So if you only have one table, it probably doesn't matter much, but I find it to be a best practice to go ahead and rename your table. You can do that as I did it here, or you can go to the formula menu and choose Name Manager. Then any table that is in the worksheet, you can therefore rename from there, okay? So I already renamed the one I'm gonna use, which is PO Log. I also have 2 others here. I have Category, and you can notice your table names are also up here so you can see which one it is. Category is Table 1. So I'll use the other method to rename Table 1 as my categories, right? Okay, and so now I have Categories, PO Log, and Table 13, which is my codes, but I'm not going to use it, so I'm not going to rename it. I just wanted you to know how. Now I'm going to save this workbook to my storage location, which is OneDrive. I like to put the date at the end just so I can remember when I did that. And now it's saved, okay? I don't need this workbook right now. So I'm going to go ahead and close that workbook out. And I'm going to go to PowerApps now. I'm going to go to PowerApps in the browser today. Best way to do that is to open a new, I'm going to open a new instance of Edge here. And you can use your top browsers, whichever browser you prefer. And I'm going to go to PowerApps. I'm a PowerApps maker. I'm always making apps. And so I very often use the waffle to go to PowerApps. Just give this a minute to catch up. And now I'm going to click on the lower left-hand corner here. You'll notice I have new app. Just for fun, in the middle of the screen, I also have create new app. So wherever you're most comfortable, click that purple button and it will open up what choices you have. Now remember, I said we put this in a storage location, so I can use create from data, right? And what I love about creating an app starting with my data, which is this top section here, which you should really try it in whichever of these that you use, it's going to build a lot of things for me. It's not just going to make the connection. So I'm going to select OneDrive for Business, and I'm going to click phone layout. Now, it knows who I am because of who I'm logged in as, so I don't even have to paste in the URL for OneDrive. Yep, it just knows. And then it exposes all of my folders and such. Now, I will say that one thing I should have done is put it in a folder. And the reason, let me just tell you why I should have put it in a folder. It's still gonna work, but by putting it in a folder first, what I would do is protect who's going to see it, right? Right now I have to share directly from this file. I prefer to share from a folder, and then I share the contents of my file. So tip number 3 is organize your files in your storage location so that they work well with your permission model, whoever you plan to share it with. Yes, you can take the entire folder. All right, so you notice that when I clicked on that Excel, just as I promised, it shows you the tables that are in there, and I'm going to click on PO log. Now, I'm going to click on here. After I click PO log, I'm going to click the connect button on the lower right. We'll have to do this twice because I want both. But in this case, just to show you both ways, I'm just going to pick the main data source. So when you choose your first table, choose the table that you are going to be submitting data to. So whatever table you're submitting data to, which is why I didn't choose categories, because categories is more of something that I'm going to use for a drop-down list, but I'm going to be submitting data to the PO log. And guess what, guys? This already works, right? Without me doing anything else, I have the ability to view all of the items in that Excel spreadsheet. I have the ability to view the related details in a detail screen. And I have the ability to go ahead and edit this in a form like this, right? So all of this kind of works right out of the box. Like if I want to rename this PO number right here, I'm going to click Save. And I want to show you a couple things that PowerApps did to our workbook, okay? So I made that change. You can see the change there on the detail sheet. And you can also see the change here on the Browse Gallery. Now, if you don't know what a gallery is and a detail sheet, I've got a great webinar that I did a while back, all about galleries. That was a lot of fun. You can check that out, yeah. And so now I'm going to go visit my OneDrive because I want to show you what happened. Some stuff happened in the back end. So I'm going to go to, there's a little bit, yeah. And I have to remember to look at my screen. Okay, so one thing I didn't do, what I should have done is just save. So I'm going to save this and to the cloud, and I'm going to call this Friendly Klaxon. This is the little dog demo app, okay? And just save. And then I'm going to go back to OneDrive here, and we're going to go find that spreadsheet, which is Excel demo. And you're gonna be surprised at what happened. So first of all, PowerApps added a column. I don't know if you guys knew this. It's called the PowerApps ID column. And what this column does is it gives a unique identifier to every record that is in this Excel file. So I would suggest that you do not edit or remove these IDs because you will break your application. It will try to create new ones, but you may run into some errors where the wrong records are being referenced and so on. So leave that friendly column that was added for you all alone, let it hang out by itself. And that's all it did. It kind of like connected to the data, and you will have proof that it connected by this unique identifier, right? And now I'm going to reclose that file, and let's go and make this app more interesting, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the theme. One thing I've noticed, I tend to zoom my screen. If you're missing something in your ribbon, sometimes it's because of you're zoomed in, but I'm going to zoom out to 100% and choose this little gray theme. What's nice about choosing themes is that from now on, when I add controls, the controls will automatically pick up the theme, which is just awesome. I'm also going to zoom in again here on my canvas just because I can't see well. And I'm going to change anything up here that I'd like to. It defaults to the name of the table, but I'm just going to call this purchase order log. Now, notice that it gives me some icons by default, and they all work. This one here with the up and down arrow, that's for sorting. Let's look at the gallery for a second, and we'll see the formula that controls the sorting. So first of all, there's a sort by columns, right, which starts right here. And it is sorting by category right now. If I wanted to sort it by something else, I could. Like I could sort it by PO date. Let me just check what the name of PO date is here. Date, it's just date. Okay, so I'm going to sort by date. And now it's sorted by date. And so basically when you click this, and I guess I should expose date so you can see. Let's just show you date here. So I'm just going to add date to the purchase order number. Sometimes I like to do that to save like space. And if you ever have trouble selecting things, remember that you can only select from the first one. And now because of our brand new Tree Explorer, you can actually select the Tree Explorer if that's easier for you. I'm just going to do PO number and a little colon and a space and this item date so that you can see the date. All right, so you can combine fields into one by using your formula bar. But if you notice here now, if I sort this, the date is changing the sort. I can sort by categories, which is meals and education. But all that is basically done for me. All I'm letting you know is that you can change it by changing this field right here to change your sort. Now, you also have a search that's working. And the search is in this search area right here. It's searching for category. If I don't want to search by category, I want to search by something else, I can do that as well. So I can change this to notes. And now I can search in my notes instead of by category. So you got a lot of freedom there. And I love that it's done for you for the most part. And you're just revising, which makes life really great. Now I'm going to turn this into a card format just for fun, right? So all I'm going to do is go over to this advanced panel over here. And you'll notice that I have options to change the layout. I like the way the layout is right now. Or I can go to properties here and change the wrap count. We're excited about this new property panel because we put it together based on a lot of your feedback where you wanted to have easy access, not just in the list of properties up here, but actually be able to have relational properties like width and height together. You'll see that now, and position together, X and Y. But wrap count represents the command columns in this gallery. I'm going to change the wrap count to 2 and just click away, and you'll notice I'll get a new wrap count, right? The other thing I'm going to do with this is I'm going to actually, going to take meals, and I'm going to make the width of meals. So you can use your properties panel, or you can make it relative, which is something that I talked to you about I guess about a week ago. Mm-hmm. Yes, in the design webinar. So I'm going to say browse gallery 1. I'm going to spell it correctly. And then I'm going to say template width. Now, what is a template? I think I've talked to you about this before, but the template represents the area where this item sits, right? And then I'm just going to align that left, so it's on the left side here. And I'm actually going to give it an interesting fill. Now, I want to show you the new fill. I'm still getting used to the new fill. It's over here on the right. You can see that you have a fill for the background and a little A next to that. Sorry, I clicked away by accident. A little A next to that for your color. So you can quickly change the colors and the fills of things using your new properties panel or your formula bar. I'm also going to add a little bit of padding on the bottom left. And I do. It's so fun to me. I like making things look interesting. And so that is my new thing. Now I want to put some space between these to make them more look like tiles. So this is what we call padding, and it's a padding on the template. So I'm actually going to do that right here. I'm going to add a padding of 20, and you'll notice that now they actually look independent of each other, right? I'm going to give the screen a little fill here. So I'm going to just so that you can see this template clearly. So I'm going to make the template white. So you actually have a template fill, and I'm going to make it white. And now you can see very clearly what I mean by template. The white area is the template, and everything else is kind of behind it. And now I can move things around and make a little bit of a card format here. And that's what you saw in the PowerPoint presentation. I had made a card format for this, and I can use my ribbon just like I do in PowerPoint to make things the size I want and so forth. But one problem I find people have with Excel is the whole idea of making sure your stuff looks kind of consistent. I don't know if you know this, but we actually have the same formulas that exist in Excel. We also have in PowerApps. I'm going to wrap this one round and upper. And what this will do is make all of my text uppercase. So it kind of looks more consistent. So right away, I've got a brand new experience in how you browse these. And I can put any number of things on these tiles. I'm going to run this and go to the detail screen. And you'll notice that the detail screen is not the order I want. So I basically just have to drag and drop things around to get it to the order that I want. But here's the fun thing that we just recently added that I love, in addition to moving things around as easy as this, is that we now have a wrap here as well. So if I go into my properties and I look at my data, because this is driven on the data, I'm going to change this snap to columns to 2. And now you've got a 2-column format. If you ever just want to span one of them, just drag and drop it across. So you can span columns, or you can use the wrap count to make this look much better. Another thing I don't like is that I don't see this as a dollar figure. And so I can reformat these. Now I'm going to do this first from the gallery, just so that you can get the idea of what's happening. I'm going to add the amount here. Now I can very easily copy and paste any one of my this Control-C, Control-V, or using our new copy-paste. And then what I'll do sometimes after I copy and paste is I'll rename it something that is good so I remember what it's going to be. And then I'm going to change this one, and I can do it over here, or I can do it here, to amount, right? So now I've got my amount. I'm going to wrap this in a text function so that I can format that amount, right? And so the way I want this formatted is I want a $sign, I want a comma, and I want 2 decimal points. Now, the trick to this is if you have problems figuring out how to figure out your format, use Excel. Excel exposes these formats. And let me just take a second and show you this, because this is one of those things I learned, and I was like so excited to learn this. I don't have to memorize this. Towards the end of the presentation, I will also show you the page on PowerApps that helps you figure this out. But let's say I want this to be $1,000. Excel's pretty smart. It's going to calculate that even though it's leaving the number the same. If I go into the number format and I go to custom, I can actually see the format of that number displayed to me in what is this called? Excel. So that means I can copy and paste this in PowerApps. So if you have any issues with custom formats, you can just use the ones you know of in Excel and you'll be good. And I'd love to have a day where I talk to you about those custom formats, because I really have fun playing with them. There's 4 basic types, and you can actually line them up in order and get them to default to certain things. I love Excel. It's a great tool. So now that I have that number correctly, I'm going to actually copy this. And the difference with the data, with the detail screen here, is because this is defaulted to parent default. I've talked about this before, but parent default means show me whatever is in my data source. That's the default that I want to see here, right? And so I really cannot format this function here. So here's what I do. I go to the advanced property and I unlock. And then I just paste in, and we got that bug fix that I was talking to you guys about before. You just paste in that format. Now the thing is, what I might want to use instead of this item here is I might want to go ahead and reference the gallery. But either way, this will give, this is, I'm sorry, I just did X instead of default, didn't I? So I love that we added undo. Just want to make sure I get back to default. I want to go to the default field here. So I don't really want to change that one. I want to change the default. Well, yeah, so this, I'm sorry, this is the display form, so I was right. So I'm going to click that and put that in there somehow. Don't look at my screen, don't look at that screen. Okay. Here we go, paste. And so that works. And so that gives me the format that I want on my detail screen as well as on my gallery screen. So when you want to change formats, don't hesitate to do that. Now, you're probably wondering about this meals here, right? So it's great for the display form, and I might go ahead and name this detail form. And then I'm going to go to my edit screen, right? Now, the edit screen, because I am in edit mode right now, is going to default to the item that I had selected in the gallery. But I'm going to do this in a tricky kind of way. I'm actually going to make the title of this if edit form 1, and I know the form name because it's listed when I click on it, but when you add a new app from data, it's always edit form 1. I'm going to say form mode if edit form 1 mode equals form mode dot edit. Then I want to say edit purchase PO log. But if it's new, which is the opposite of that, I'd like it to say create PO log. So I'm actually using conditional formatting to drive what the top of my screen says. And I'm going to show you that in real life action working. And so I'm going to edit this one. And you'll notice it says edit PO log. I'm going to change my mind and go back. I'm going to create a new one. It says create PO log. So this is what I mean when I say enhance the experience of your user. Do something that makes it a little easier to use, a little bit more fun, okay? Now here's what we're going to do with this category. Claxton would love this. He's, you know, such a proactive bug. So I'm going to talk about category here, right? Because in Excel, I just used a blank field, and that's what you should do. And so here is tip number 4. Tip number 4 is do not use formulas in your Excel workbook, and do not use data validation, okay? Instead, drive your formulas and your data validation from PowerApps. Let us handle that. But I did add a data source for that so that I could drive the values from Excel, okay? So let's add another data source here. So I'm going to insert, I'm going to go to the view menu and choose data sources. And then I'm going to add another Office 365, OneDrive for Business connection. If you have one already, you just reuse it, right? It's going to go and look for all my things again. I didn't put it in a folder, which I thought you should do, but I didn't. But here it is, Excel demo. I can tell by the date which one it is. And now I'm going to add the other table categories, and I'm going to connect to that. Okay, now once categories is connected, that data is available to me to use in a dropdown. So I'm going to open up this data card, check on my advanced property to make sure I unlock it. It's locked to protect you from yourself. Sometimes we get awfully excited and we start clicking around, especially if we're new at this, and we'll break things. So explicitly saying unlock means you know what you're doing and you're on that right path. I'm just going to add a drop-down box here. And I want to populate this drop-down box with the data in categories. So it defaults to this sample data. I'm just going to change this, and let's do it over here for fun. I think we can. No, we can't. So I'm going to do it up here. I'm going to just type in categories, which is the name of that data. And if you notice, it automatically works, right? Awesome, don't have to think too hard. Now, the problem is every data card, however, is looking at a particular property. Every data card is looking at the update property. This update property is the property that will update Excel. So if I want to change this from using the data card value 7, which I believe I can go and get that, let's see. I can get that in a couple of ways. You see it down here? Edit screen, sorry, I was looking at the wrong screen. Data card. Keep going down. 7. And it's just, I'm just showing you so that you know how this card, this new feature works. I love it. But I can select the new drop down easily from here, or I can select the old one. Now, what's important is if I want to do a little trick, and here's a little trick. I'm actually going to name this one the same thing as the other one, so that all of my functions, except for one, will work. So if you look at the name of this, it's data card value, and I'll look at it up here so I can see the whole thing. Data card value 7. I'm just going to copy that to my clipboard. And then I'm going to delete that. You're going to notice, you see those little, ooh, we got in trouble. Don't worry, I got you back. We're going to click on the drop down here, and we're going to rename that drop down what the other one was called. And notice that one of the errors will go away, right? And the reason that is, again, go look at my forms webinar. I did a webinar on all about forms. That was a lot of fun again. And I taught you why this is happening, so check it out. But this last error is here because we've changed the type of control. We were using a text control, and now we're using a drop down. So this one is looking for the value in a text format. All I have to do is change this to a drop-down format, which is selected, and then value, because it's, then I'm sorry, the name of the field. No, I can use value. And this is because it's considered a complex situation, right? So now because I've changed this to the type of control this is, that will work for updates, all right? Now, at that point, if you want to move things around, you can move things around. There are some things on this screen that we didn't talk about, but they will move as you move this control because they are relative to it. Again, I encourage you to check out my webinar on forms. We talk a lot about these dependencies and how they work. So I'm just going to resize that so it's back up. And basically, this is good with one exception. It works wonderfully for create PO because it just defaults. But when we're editing, we want it to say what the gallery, we want it to say whatever it says in that table. Exactly, thank you. So here's where I was thinking before, I was a little ahead of myself. You want to change the default of this to parent default. And that way, let's pick something. Let's go back up to our browse gallery here and maybe pick this one and then edit it. Now it will say education because education is what's associated with this particular PO number. And I hope you're all realizing just how easy this is to do. It's really 3 or 4 steps, several little clicks, and then you're done, right? But you can make a very exciting looking app. Now I'm gonna take you back to PowerPoint again. Just want to point out I'm going to go back in this, and I want to point out that in my original one, the only thing I didn't do with you, which I can do, we have time, is I didn't do that grid. So the first screen that you see there represents how I set up the cards, right? And I added a couple of other ones, right? Also, what's missing on that first screen is the total at the top. I'll do that real quick too. It only takes a minute. Then the second screen, what I did was I divided the detail screen up into part 1, which is that detail that they selected. And then I added a grid on the bottom to show me all of the other items in that category. So it kind of shows me all the education items, right? If I was on a meals category, it would show me all the meals items. right? And then finally, I didn't do much to this except change notes. So let's go through those last couple of things, just so that you get the full circle experience. First thing was the sum on the top. So basically what I did was say, okay, how much have we spent on POs to date? And so I'm going to go up here and I'm going to add a label. Just going to insert a label right here and drop it right above my search. I might give it some nice, easy PowerPoint formatting, like making it nice and deep bold. I might make it a little tiny bit bigger. And here it's just, I'm just having fun, right? I just do this for fun because this is fun for me. And I might add some padding as well on the right, just so it's not slammed up against that wall. Now, what is this text value going to be? I'm going to take myself down to text, and I'm again thinking like I'm in Excel. I'm going to say sum. Let's get my caps lock on. Sum, the name of the data, which is PO log, comma, what field I want to sum. I'm going to wrap that into a text property, a text function, so that I can format it the way I want. And I'm going to prefix it with the words of what this means. Now I've added, very easy, click, 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 just like I would do in Excel, something that shows me what the total is. So if you add the 2 POs up in this form, you will get 5,060. And I'm very confident about that. I have no doubts. I'm going to add a space here just because I noticed I didn't have one. Okay, so that was one thing I promised we could do. The other thing on the details screen that we didn't do, let me just peek at that one more time just to remind myself, is the grid. Okay, so let's do this grid really quick. It's really easy because we added a beautifully newly designed grid function control. And I really have to give props to our PMs out in Toronto, our devs in Toronto who worked hard to give you this data grid control. Way to go, Philip. He's working hard for you. I'm going to add a data table here. And I'm going to align that data table down to the bottom of this screen. And now the data for this is actually the same as the data above. So it's PO log. But what I want to do is I want to filter this. I want to filter it. I get only the PO log items where the browse gallery 1, selected category equals category. And are you feeling the Excel? I hope you guys are feeling the Excel because it's all over the place right here. This is pure Excel magic right here. And then I'm going to say I want to show the date. Don't you love the new check boxes we added? Because it used to be eyes and stuff, and now it's like check on, check off. And the order that you put it is the order that it shows up. And if you don't want it, you uncheck it. Isn't that the most awesome thing? Again, go Philip. Go Philip. Really awesome stuff. The devs out there in Toronto working on this. So basically you can size this the way you want. You can also give yourself, different font size. Now, one thing I like to do here, just because I don't want it to be this long, is I like to set the height of this. And what I will do is set the height to the count of the rows, right? So I will count the rows. Again, this is just Excel, right? Count rows in PO, count rows in filter PO log, where category, and you notice I did it backwards this time. It doesn't matter which direction you do this in. Browse a gallery 1 dot category. And then take that count of rows and times it by the height you'd like each row to have. And I got a little boo-boo here. So let's see what my boo-boo. Ah, I forgot selected. And I love the way it helps you that way. You see that I just backed up to my dot and then it showed me what I could have, right? So you know what, I just might do, you know what I'm gonna do instead, because I think what's going on is that the filter is, I'm just using math here. I could definitely just type a number of a height, but I want this height to change based on how many rows there are in the result. And that's why I did it this way. Another thing I like is I'm not crazy about this scroll bar here. I don't know if you know, but we enabled the ability to size these live in runtime, which I also really like, because your consumer is who you really want to see this well, not the app maker. So we let the consumer decide how wide these are. So now I've basically done everything. Did I forget anything? Let's go look again. No, that's not what I did. Number 5 is coming up right now. Hang in there. So you see how we enhance the experience for the user, right? And we can test our app and it works wonderfully. Let's add something new. Let's do 800. Let's do this for lodging. Let's do this for yesterday. There's an OK button that's hiding from me. And it's hiding because of my Zoom and my screen share. There's a little thing for Google Hangout. There we go. Got it out of my way. And then I can do my notes, the story, and I can do my PO number, L234, and I can say yes. And there we go. It took it. If I go back to my gallery, you'll see we have the new, this story. And it's also changed this number up here to include all the count. So that was like easy peasy fun. And your users are going to be so impressed with what you're giving them because you're giving them an app you didn't use code on that actually in the back end is Excel. So here is tip number 5. Tip number 5 is don't forget about Flow and don't forget about Power BI. You can take Power BI and you can connect it to that spreadsheet and get your trends, get your analytics, get your insights on this data. Maybe you'll find out that you're spending way too much money on meals and people just need to lose weight. Whatever it is that you find out, you won't find it out unless you see this in the visualization in Power BI. And don't forget Flow. Let me show you something really cool about Flow in this regard. So I'm just going to, not look at that screen, and go to Flow in my waffle. And up here at the top of Flow, and again, make my zoom so I can see, I'm going to search templates for Excel. And guess what? Flow is so on top of Excel. It has all of these wonderful templates already built in that works with Excel. So, I mean, I love these things. Like one thing I noticed here is that I can copy data from Smartsheet to Excel. A couple of my customers wanted to do that. This Flow facilitates that. Another thing that it will do is, I'm going to scroll down a little bit, add rows to Excel when new sales orders come in through the Common Data Service. Any integration with Dynamics 365, I can have those new sales orders put into a spreadsheet. I can connect Power BI to that spreadsheet and get a whole other set of insights based on new orders. I love over here, this is a tool I'd love you to check out. It's a connector that we have called Parser. Parser is a really cool connector. You can define what it parses out of the Excel attachment of an email, and then use that data that you parse out to push information into Salesforce or Dynamics CRM. So lots of Excel functionality sitting in Flow. So tip number 5, don't forget we're a family. Don't forget about Power BI and don't forget about Flow. They're both waiting to take advantage of your business scenario so they can give you additional value. Okay, so with that thought in mind, I just want to go over a few last things before I let you open us up to questions. One, remember that when you're connecting to files, I did app from data, which you can do from new from PowerApps. But if you do it manually, you just add Okay, sorry about that interruption. If you felt it, we had a short interruption, but we're back on board here. Let me know if you're seeing again or not.
Samir says we're back.
Okay. Yay, all right, I'm gonna check my screen share because I'm not seeing my screen. Right, I'm trying to get it to, okay, share. You are screen sharing. Okay, we're back to where I want to be. Okay, so the last thing I was saying before we had that interruption is that when you're formatting your dates and numbers, you may need to get Excel to help you with the custom number format, but we will actually put in the location and the language for you. You don't want to do that yourself because you want it to be responsive to who's consuming your app. On the bottom of this screen, though, I have 2 links I strongly suggest that you read, and these are more about how we use that function called text, and then how we edit and revise the date and time formats. These are 2 things people often need help with, so I wanted to encourage you to read these because once you read it, you'll get it and it won't be a problem for you. Now, the last thing about this is that all this work that I did without sharing with anybody, right? That was all about me, right? And you, of course. But if I want other people at Microsoft to use that, I need to share, all right? Now, I mentioned that I like to keep them in folders, in which means that I need to share the folder, and then I need to share the file. And there, you just click on the file, select it in OneDrive, and then click share, and then you get these options that you see on my screen on the right here. So you can actually share with everyone in your company. It wouldn't say people in Microsoft in your case, it would say people in whatever your wonderful company is. And then you would click that and decide whether you want to allow editing. If you're using PowerApps with that file, you need to allow editing because we are an application that updates the file. If you don't check that box, nobody will be able to edit anything, right? So after you've done that, and you can choose to do specific people if you'd like to as well, and security groups if that works best, you can just click apply. You need to do that for the file and the folder. If your Excel file contains images, and I'll give you a link to know how to do that, you need to use the image path and not the URL provided by Office 365. And again, I'm going to give you a link so you understand what I just said. And then lastly, if you're using Dropbox or Google Drive, you share either the file or folder. Usually you'll share the folder and that will share the file. Okay, I'll tell you about the known limitations. And here's something I want to underscore. Known limitations with PowerApps is always a temporary story because we are constantly improving this product and these known limitations will be reduced over time, okay? So if you ever get a message that says data type unsupported or not formatted as a table, it means that you missed my tip number 1. You just need to go back to that Excel file and format your data range as a table. When you do that, you will no longer get that message. And this link will link off to the documentation on our site that explains that. Now, secondly, if your Excel spreadsheet includes calculated formulas, it won't even let you put that table in the app. And I know many of you have asked for this. Give us some time. I'm working on it, okay? Thirdly, OneDrive for Business files may occasionally remain locked longer than you expect. Now, what this will result in is an error on the PowerApps side when it tries to update a file, and or an error on the OneDrive side when you try to replace or update the file in OneDrive. And so you'll get an error about the file being locked. In PowerApps, you just may get a failed submission, okay? We know about this and we're working to resolve it. Any issue of this nature regarding sharing or regarding updates of files, I would love for you to report this in our community forum. We have people standing by that can give you workarounds that can help you out. And worst case scenario, if you're using PowerApps in a production scenario, you need to help us know about this through support. And you'll see a support link in the top navigation of PowerApps. In that case, you'll need to include your session ID. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm never bored by talking to you, and I'm never bothered by your interruptions. If you need help getting resolution, I will work with you. Okay? Audrie at Microsoft.com. Yeah. Now, the last things I'd like you to read are these three. So I'll explain why. The first one is all about working with tables. It was written by our genius, who is Greg. I love Greg. You met Greg at the last webinar or the one before that, where he talked about formulas in depth. Well, he knows everything, right? So I consider him the black belt of everything. And he wrote this article called Working with Tables. I love the article. It is about 2 pages long, but it's worth every minute of your time to read. The second one is about working with images in Excel. It actually tells you how you can create images. This was written by Atrana. She did a wonderful job of writing this article. You can create an image and then store it in Excel, but it kind of walks you through how to do that. And then finally, you get some information on cloud storage blob connections. In this case, refer to OneDrive versus Dropbox versus whatever else you might like to use. So now, I hope that was good. I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned something. I'm ready for questions. Over time, and I went too long. I'm so sorry. I'm not. Yes.
Okay.
How do I get there?
Yeah.
Samir is here. We have so many people here working. Let me go let you peek at these awesome people.
Hey guys.
Connect Archana, PM for connectors, and all around wonderful supporters for all of you. So let's know these people. They're great. They're working for you, including me. Let us know what you want more. Email me at audrie@microsoft.com. Audrie spelled AUDRIE. If you have all 5 tips, give me your size and your address, and I will send you both t-shirts. This is awesome. Bye-bye, guys.